You ready to rock and roll?
Yep, ready to go.
Let's do it.
Packets on packets on packets on packets on packets. Got packets on 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 packets. Got packets on 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 packets. Got packets on packets on packets on packets on packets on packets on.
Put in the F around and you find out.
Something.
Hey, what's up? Audio check.
Audio check.
What's up, Jason?
Not much.
Do we sound good?
It's a
I mean, is it coming
Wonderful.
through
Yeah,
okay?
you sound great. I just popped over to YouTube and I ran a playback and it was working.
Okay, so
Anybody
maybe,
that says otherwise is just screwing with you.
which could be the case, but yeah,
Yep.
I guess we've been doing this for, I guess this is the fourth week that we've been doing whatever this is that we're doing here, and it's
Yes.
been fun so far. We have had some audio issues. Hopefully, those are resolved.
Yes. I think so. Everything's tracking. I see the EQ working perfectly.
Rock and
Um,
roll.
the screens are sharing. It's a wonderful Sunday.
The packets are packeting. Excellent.
Yes.
So, yeah, on YouTube, you should be able to, comment over there. We should be able to see it on our end. And yeah, if you want to communicate with us, if there's something you want to talk about, I mean, hit us up. But otherwise, we're just going to kind of do our thing. How's your week been?
Pretty good. Playing with a few things, figuring out some new stuff, breaking some things, you know, um, having fun doing it.
Excellent. That's how it goes. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I know we've kind of been working together on a couple things, and I think that
Yep.
they've been going well. I mean, I feel that they have. It's always
Yeah.
nice to see progress. So
We got a few fronts going on, So yeah, seem to be making some progress at least.
yeah,
Good.
and one thing that we're kind of working on is the over on the helium side of things, the HIP 100, which should be live now. Which means
Yep.
that throughout Africa, EU 868 should be the region to use. So
Yeah, Air Africa.
cool stuff. There was a lot of work put into that by a number of
Yep.
people. Waveform, shout outs to you. Thank you for all the work you put in. Countless others. Thank you all. I think this is a very good thing. This is something that's
Yes.
going to really alleviate some of the pain points of
You're
deploying over there.
helping the people in Africa have infrastructure, wireless infrastructure. You
True, true.
know, that's a very, very good thing.
So if that's something, if you're deploying over there, hit me up, let me know. We're actively throwing a lot of gateways up, and hopefully, we're gonna light that map up soon. So, I still have to fix this damn chair, the hydraulics on it. I keep hitting it with my leg. All right. So I had a conversation the other day, and this is kind of jumping back on some old projects, but this is a layered module, the
Mm.
RM 191, I believe, for the US 915. But it's a little module that is both FCC CE certified. It's just this part on the left over here. This is, it's on a little breakout board,
Yeah.
which is open hardware, and then, little terminal breakouts. But this has like a little UFL connector on it, and so I supply power. I put it in antenna, and then I've got a full little module that supports. It has a BLE stack and it has a LoRa stack on it for 12
Is that
bucks.
part of the layered package, or you have an extra module added on?
No, here's the deal. Okay, this is the layered module. Now, if
Yeah.
you've probably seen those blue like layered devices,
Yes.
that have the IP rating. You know, they're weatherized. They have batteries. It's the same thing. It's the same module on the inside,
Yeah, because that's
and
a standard module that they offer. It's almost like the RFM 95, or
yeah, yeah, but it actually has a stack on it. I don't have to use like LMEC,
yes.
in order to drive that radio. It's not just a radio, but it has a microcontroller on it that I can program in Smart Basic, which
Okay,
is
so which microcontroller is it using? Do you know?
I sure as hell should know, but
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I've
uh,
heard that Laird does love their Smart Basic. You find that in a lot of the cell phone and the mobile.
well,
Um,
it's event driven. I don't hate it. I mean, it doesn't support floats. I mean, there's some trickiness to it.
yeah,
Um,
basic is basic.
I mean, but for an event-driven you know device, I primarily have set these up for protocol bridges, so I could bridge between BLE and just whitelist what devices I want to be able to hit this bridge and bridge over to LoRaWAN.
hmm
And for $12 and it's FCC and CE certified, that's a pretty damn good setup there.
What types
So
of protocols does it bridge? Like, does it bridge just sub G
well,
or
it has those are the two stacks it has. I mean, it has the radio to support BLE
yeah?
and
Okay,
LoRa. So
okay.
um, that's pretty much the only thing I've used these for. But I've got a number of these that I've built up. I've got one like in a solar enclosure because they don't have a huge power footprint, and so
Hmm.
it's something I could just throw up and like a little device with a like this, and it just runs and it just bridges whatever devices I have whitelisted, over
Power
to.
consumption is minimal.
It's low. I haven't done a full profiling of it, but
Yeah,
I'm glad, yeah, you asked because
yeah,
we've been talking a lot about using like the Nordic, power profilers or
yes,
the Odis, the
yep.
with the Quitex. And that's something that I do want to get online with HardShare. So if you have a project you're working on and you want it to be profiled, then I'd like it where you could, just kind of jump on, load your firmware up, and get feedback from these devices. Um, I don't know. I think that'd be cool as hell.
Yeah, it'd be
Um,
pretty cool if you had like kind of a known loop that you could loop the device through, so then we could pair it up with the power profile. So, like something like it goes into sleep mode, it comes out of sleep mode, it sends a couple pulses, goes back into sleep mode, because that's where you really start to learn
right.
some things about the power profiling.
And like the way this thing works with the Odie, I have these pins that hook into my device under test. And so if I'm sending like print lines, like serial, like print line statements, it goes out to this device and it inlines that with the graphs. And so I'm like, okay, I'm
Okay.
turning this radio on now. And
Yeah.
then I that's in line with the graph. I see the spike, for power consumption when that radio fires up, and I could say, okay, so how long, given this sleep mode, can I run on an 18650? With a
Exactly.
2600,
What
milliamp hour.
battery do I need for this, and how
Yeah,
long? Yeah.
yeah, exactly. Um, Exactly. So I think that would be useful, to have out there, for the community to be able to, and I think everyone knows I do a lot of work with WizBlocks, with the rack WizBlocks. That's what the Helium Developer Kit is designed around with the Nordic, NRF 52, series. But
Well,
you
it's
can
just yeah. Go ahead.
I mean, you can run ESP32s on the same WizBlock baseboards.
Yep.
If that's your gig, and ESP32 S3s have kind of been taking up a lot of my time recently.
Well, this is usually the way that you find that your firmware needs improvement, or in some cases, you actually find out that the hardware that they published in the specifications is not what it seems. So looking up
Yeah.
power profilers are a good way to characterize and verify, what is said in the spec is actually what it does.
Right. Right. And that's something that, using these tools as a firmware developer, it's nice just to be able to say, okay, I changed these lines of code in my sleep cycle, and this is what that means as far as what battery,
Hmm.
how long a battery, a particular, if I'm running on a coin cell, which actually, this is kind of cool. If you look at the back of these boards, this is what I was just showing you, and full props for this breakout board right there. If you
So
want,
it's running off a coin cell. That's its
yeah,
full.
yeah.
That's beautiful. Yeah,
That's the actual board there. That
that's a
yeah,
that's a
and
good way to do it.
so when I say low power, yeah, they're low power consumption.
Well,
So
the other kind of cool thing about like these power profiles is that they're so accurate, taking the data that you can actually see rise and fall times and shifts in your logic. So a turn on might actually take longer and or a shorter amount of time, and you might not actually be triggering off your logic because you're sampling too fast or something like that.
it's something that you need to have insight into. I mean,
Yeah.
especially if you're talking about bringing a product to market. I mean,
Yes.
it's you know you,
It's a
you
necessary characterization of the product, definitely.
yeah. And I mean, just talking about price points, these things are dirt cheap. This is the Nordic Power Profiler Kit 2, um, sub
99
100
bucks,
US dollars. They're
100
like,
bucks, yeah,
yeah.
something like that. Yeah, yeah.
This is an older version. This isn't the new Pro version that they have, but I want to say these are between $500 and $1,000. Plus, you have a monthly subscription fee in order to do some of the battery profiling. And a very dear friend to I don't know this group, this show, this whatever we're doing here, is now working over at this company, and very interested in maybe working with us about what we can do here. What we can do to increase the visibility of this product, because I don't know a whole lot of people who have these, but they're cool.
Mhm.
They're quite cool little devices,
The
and
Nordic PPK, and for the price point, and the features and lack of recurring charges,
yeah,
and you can't beat that. You can't
it.
beat that.
I mean, literally, I don't think you can beat that on the
No.
on the market. And okay, we're on the subject of Nordic. Um, Nordic has some cool things out. They have a dongle that is released that is very cheap as well. However, Seed has a Zhao, or a line of products called Zhaos, and they have support for the Nordic NRF 58840. And I can flash the dongle Nordic firmware onto that Zhao and have it be a BLE scanner and sniffer. Um, there we go. Okay, yeah, that's the dongle. And these are great little devices. And they come with the associated software that allows me to just run that in scanning. Jason, hey, you talk about this. You
The
probably,
Nordic software, the Nordic NRF Connect software that you use for programming this NRF 52840, it is,
yep,
or even the 52840 dev kit right
yeah,
here, which has all the bells and whistles, everything you would need to really characterize and set up programming for any NRF device.
yeah, and
It's
they're
it's
cheap.
phenomenal. The software is phenomenal. The desktop software is great, but if you're into the S code, there's a whole extension, the NRF Connect extensions. Um, Very simple to use. It's like click to build. There's tons of examples.
It
They have
integrates with
examples.
VS Code, and so you
Yeah,
can plug that
exactly.
directly in. Yeah,
So it supports Matter. It supports what else? Thread. It supports Sidewalk, and they have examples for these. I burned this guy yesterday I built some software. Just basically took 2 minutes to build the software. It was actually a little bit longer than I expected. Normally it's about 30 seconds for a build. Um, that made this turn into a bridge between Bluetooth LE, low energy devices, and brought them into Matter.
Yeah.
So now from this bridge, I could basically attach a temp sensor. I could attach any type of other BLE sensor and bring it into Matter. And then from there, I could patch it into Google Home, Amazon Alexa,
Home
any of
assistant.
those
I mean, yeah,
systems.
yeah,
And it's just, this is a dev kit, so you don't need the full dev kit to do that. But really, within all the Nordic devices, as Travis had mentioned, including like some of the off-the-shelf Seed stuff, those capabilities are built into that chip.
yeah.
So you just have to basically flash them. And like I said earlier, the NRF Connect, either the desktop version with the examples or the VS Code version, are very simple things to use. They give you great examples to start with.
And with
So
ESP IDF, they have a utility called menu config. And I load that up and I can see exactly, I mean, how I toggle these options on for Matter, for open thread support, for y- basically to be able to play with those aspects of this ESP32. It's a full menu driven, like I don't know, ASCII menu driven
yeah,
setup, and it's easy to use, easy to navigate, and
that
a
also
lot of
has an
fun.
extension. ESP also has an extension in VS Code. It's a little bit more, I wouldn't say difficult, but it's not as intuitive and not as GUI friendly as the Nordic platform. But it,
Yeah,
it does have it does have a lot of features in there. Yeah,
I still fall back to CLI really with the
same. Yeah, same.
I
I'm more there, but I watched a video on the Nordic, and
yeah,
the next thing you know, I'm building,
yeah.
and flashing, and
And Seed has a very good walkthrough of using their NRF, Zhao with Sidewalk, if that's a direction you're looking at for a project, using BLE, and it's a very thorough walkthrough and something that I would recommend.
yeah, the sidewalk functionality is actually pretty awesome, if you think about it, because that allows you to have what normally is a Bluetooth 30-foot range using the sidewalk network, which basically reaches like 90 plus percentage of the people in the United
In
States
the U.S., that's what they're claiming. Yeah,
through Amazon connectivity of all Amazon devices it's on. They all act as relays and bridges. The Ring doorbell, to some extent, some of the Nest software has it, but that
yeah,
sets up a network. And it really is a sidewalk network because anywhere there's a sidewalk, your
yeah.
Bluetooth device can communicate through it back to your home base.
Uh,
That's some pretty powerful wireless connectivity.
And Jason, this is something that you turned me on to. Recently, there was a change in, I guess, policy with Amazon and the way that Ring is
Yes,
handling requests to law enforcement. Because a lot of
yes.
people that pissed a lot of people off. Basically,
There
without
was there's a whole thing called Neighbors, and you can find
yeah,
this on EFF.org, Electronic Frontiers
yeah,
Foundation.org. They're basically a electronic rights advocate.
they're the good
Uh,
guys. Yeah,
they're the good guys. Yeah, they're like almost like the NAACP of electronics. Yeah, they look out for our rights. So what was happening is that law enforcement was squatting basically on the Amazon sidewalk network, and they were acting as if they were neighbors, and they were using it for surveillance of certain neighborhoods.
yeah.
And usually, there's a lot of privacy issues associated with that.
Without warrants, without
Without
even
warrants, without
necessarily
nothing. Yeah.
any type of suspicion. I mean, just
And
we're
and for the
watching.
most part,
Yeah.
Ring didn't really know it was happening. They could just basically go squat. But then again, they could go in and tell Ring that they were there and be granted, administrative access to do whatever the heck they wanted. So
Yeah.
there's a ruling. EFF brought that ruling through the courts that they are now required to obtain a warrant prior to doing any of that surveillance, which is
And
a
they're not
very
even
awesome
serving
thing.
requests for it, right? They're not. I
Yeah,
mean,
there
they're
was nothing that, I mean, they were walking up to people and saying, "Hey, can we see the Ring footage?" And then when they did that, they'd insert themselves there. And not only were they asking for your permission to share your footage, but you're asking, it's like a vampire invited into the house. So yeah, that's not allowed. And actually, if law enforcement does come up to you and ask for your footage, you can ask them for a warrant at this point.
yeah. Um, and you should. I mean,
Yes.
um,
Not
and,
only for your protection, but everybody in the neighborhood needs to protect each other. So
and it's. I mean, a lot of people think about, okay, so a Ring doorbell is an outwardly facing camera. It doesn't have to be. There. I mean, that camera can be facing at anything I'm pointed at, right?
yeah.
Um, and
But not
so,
only that, it can sense your movements based on your Bluetooth device. So it
yeah,
knows when your phone comes and goes.
yeah.
It knows your activity. It knows everything based on trilateration and triangulation in your house.
Yeah,
So it's not just
presence,
the
I
vision
guess. Yeah,
system, not just the vision system. There's a lot of other background monitoring that goes on.
and so that kind of brings up, okay, these voice systems that a lot of people use, and I've been pretty heavily involved, with
Yeah.
Amazon and Google side of things there. Um, maybe I don't want all of that going out. Maybe, I mean, what can I run? Is there a solution where I can still get a lot of the functionality and just
Ring
run
does have an
locally?
opt out. Ring does have an opt out that's recently added to their terms and conditions because of these rulings. So you have to dig deep into the setup of your devices, and it's like a checkbox hidden in there that says, "No, I do not want my information shared."
But
So
I'm still making remote calls for all these queries.
yeah,
If
true.
I ask this voice service for something, I mean, it's calling a remote API. It's sending,
And
in
then
many
you're
cases,
given,
my voice or
yeah,
my audio to a remote server in order to parse down to text to call. I mean, um, can I
and
do that locally?
you're given
Yes,
an
there are some.
anonymized, yeah, you're given an anonymized name when you make those calls, but that's anonymized customer name now relates back to you. It's not truly anonymized. You know what I mean? So when you make those calls, they're binning it as a anonymous externally, but then that also allows them to collect metrics on you because you now have an ID.
Yeah. A good friend of mine, Pierce, here in Houston, he a number of years back, he runs the IoT meetup group for the greater Houston area, and he gave a talk on completely localized, non-cloud voice recognition agents,
Yes.
and they do exist. I mean, now it's not going to.
Olama. Olama, the AI, which isn't open AI, but Olama has a bunch of models. The Mistral is the perfect model that you can use to develop your own local model within your house and voice software and stuff like that associated with it. So you're not having to make any external calls. You could do all the automation that you want. Um, but also Home Assistant does as well too. There's a couple of things. I can't remember the name of the software that they use on that. But you could use that, but that will also interface with all the Llama models. There's a couple of ways that you could use now AI to be smarter on top of that, have a local model of AI, and then relate that back to the tools that are available with Home Assistant. I found that out earlier this week. I
Okay.
can't remember. Who was I talking to?
Also, what's up, Leo? It's good to see you,
Nos
man.
NOS Master. NOS
Oh,
Master was
okay.
asking about that. Yes. Yeah. So
Interesting.
yeah, there's a lot of options to take yourself offline.
Just be aware of, and that's why we're fortunate to have like EFF who does, all of the legwork, and if you can support them, throw some of that your crypto earnings their way, because they certainly look out for our best interest, in my opinion. So.
They're one of the few advocacy groups that we have for electronics and electronic freedoms. So yes, definitely support them.
Yeah, yeah, it's important. It's important for you. It's important for your offspring, your children.
It, yep. It's
It's
also
important for
important
freedom.
for you to actually check out their page and see what they're active in because they are the front runners, before you even know that there's a privacy issue.
Yeah,
They bring they're
there's
fighting
so
it
much
already.
going on. You can't keep up with everything. I mean, it's just it's overload. There's not enough hours in the day, and so when we have organizations like this who they say, hey, look, we're looking out for your best interest. If you agree with their policy, support them where you can.
Yep.
They can use it. So yeah, Leo, and I'll throw a link in actually. Let's see if I can do this.
Yeah, link would be
Um,
good.
well, I guess just go to EF. It's not hard to find, but
I think Leo's gonna start up the Australian chapter of EFF.
uh, actually, you know what? I may can just. Oh, I thought maybe I could do this. Ooh, okay. What do we have here?
That's your Nordic desktop. Yep.
Yeah. So this is NRF Connect,
Uh-huh.
and if it's okay if we jump around a little bit here.
Yeah.
This is what we were talking about earlier,
Good segue. That just happened.
and well, perfect. And so what we're looking at is, I guess this is kind of the main app that allows me to open or install all of these different aspects of NRF Connect. So we've got the BLE here. We have, you're going to want to use that. You're going to use your probably toolchain manager, and then your programmer. Yeah,
The
programmer.
flasher, the main one that you're gonna use, and I can't. Let me blow you up a little bit here. Yeah, the main one that you're gonna use is Connect, programmer and flasher on
Yeah,
that. Yep.
and
I normally I like that because it's really quick and dirty. You just press go and it does it.
yeah.
And it detects your device and everything. But I usually jump on into the examples in VS Code and start digging that way and saying which is close to what I want to build and will cost me the least amount of work.
And they've got a number
Yes.
of applications that run on Android.
Yes. Also on iOS.
Okay,
iOS is a
okay.
little more watered down. Like they turn off some of the Bluetooth connectivity because of the problems that they've had with Apple devices getting Bluetooth spammed. But
Oh, right,
yeah,
right, yeah.
yeah, the Apple selectively has a different version of NRF Connect on it than Android. Features are dropped. Yes.
And NRF Connect is open source, and so if you want to go in and jink around with things, you can jump in. A lot of applications or utilities seem to be kind of branched, off of that Nordic code base, because
Yeah.
Nordic
On
kind
this
of
dev
is.
kit,
There we go. Yeah.
to give you an idea on this dev kit, right here is an NFC card reader. Um, there's an encryption software, which the system on chip, the actual NRF device, has its own encryption block on it. So that's bare silicon. That's about as secure as you can get with respect to, connectivity and maintaining encryption. That's why it was chosen for Sidewalk and everything. Um, what else? I mean, there's so many different features in here.
Let's talk about
Bluetooth,
Thread for a moment. Let's.
Matter,
Um,
Thread. Yes,
I like OpenThread a whole lot, and OpenThread,
Thread is
it was born from Google or from
yeah,
Nest, for like a home. I don't know, for use inside the home.
People
Open.
might remember Zigbee and Z-Wave a little bit, and they were half versions of Thread. Thread is full connectivity um, with an application layer, a transport layer using UDP, the Bluetooth MAC layers. So it's a full stack solution of wireless.
People might
Um,
remember Zigbee. I got to get a sample of that. That's
Oh, people
um,
remember it, and I keep
yeah.
telling them that it's dead. I keep telling them that it's dead, and in my mind, it is dead with all these new. These basically fall underneath the IEEE 802.15.4 standard. Um, everything that you're talking about with respect to Thread and Matter and all those devices. The
And OpenThread
Zigbee,
is just an open
Z-Wave,
implementation of,
yeah.
of Thread. So,
Yeah, so basically what that is you think of your 802.3 standard, which covers your IPv4 and IPv6 type of addressing on Ethernet. This discusses those layers and how they're going to interact within the OSI stack model so that Bluetooth and these different wireless protocols can communicate. So it's like the equivalent of the IPv4, IPv6, and those full layers of the stack all rolled into one for wireless devices.
and what a
Um,
lot of this allows you to do is have what's known as self-forming and self-healing meshes. Um,
Meshes. The beautiful part is the mesh.
yeah,
Um, and the way that it meshes together is it's actually using the 802.11, which is your Wi-Fi standards. So this is taking up a small little portion of your Wi-Fi bandwidth to maintain connectivity for those 802.15.4 devices.
and
Um,
I love protocol bridges. I love talking about okay because yeah, I mean I've worked heavily with certain infrastructures, but sometimes everything's not a nail just because I got a badass hammer. And I think that's something that we have to be cognizant of is sometimes you need something else and you need to bridge over to something. I don't have to use one protocol. I'm not limited to this. So oh, nice. Yeah, talking about the EFF there. Nice.
Way
Yeah,
to go, Leo.
excellent, excellent. But yeah, I mean,
Yeah,
if
so
anyone's doing sidewalk matter, I mean, thread, open thread. I love talking about radios, Jason. You know.
it's fun. Yeah, these are really fun. I mean, as far as any other wireless technology out there, like Wi-Fi excluded, because it's fairly well developed. Um, this is the new one. This is the one that, people have thought about and people have learned from other wireless technologies and said, figure it out. I mean, if you look at it kind of conversely, and I don't want to pick, but you look at LoRa and you look at what the protocols exist, there aren't really necessarily protocols yet. There's good standards and practices, but
That
there
aren't
isn't a
always followed. Yeah.
it's a bridge between a Bluetooth device and LoRa is going to take a huge amount of pain and suffering and custom firmware and inventing protocols to make it work. So, there's no real standard. It's kind of interesting, but it might get there. We just need to work on packet and header fragmentations on the LoRa layer and how we're going to transport the MAC addresses and come up with a MAC layer that communicates probably with these 802.15.4 devices and or Wi-Fi, and you'll have something. But right now it's all custom. It's no man's land. So if you develop something, it might be just used by you. Nobody knows whether it's going to be the standard in the
Or
future.
use something that everything talks. I'm talking
Or
about
yeah, you don't know.
MQTT here.
These standards are looked at by professionals, people who have been in the industry forever and developed to be secure and vetted to be secure. And you're going to make your own protocol and not find out that some 10-year-old's able to hack you? It's probably
Yeah,
not going to happen.
yeah. Having sets of eyes on projects, especially when we're talking security,
Peer
is a
review, peer reviews,
paramount
the peer
importance. Yeah.
review. Yep. Those mean something. The peer review and the vetting process, the critiquing, like, oh yeah, did you think of this? And having that, oh crap, no, I didn't. Goodness you're here, and we got 10 sets of eyes on it. You
Yeah.
know?
I mean, come break what I'm working on, but
Yeah,
tell me. I mean, there are some standards to responsible reporting, and if I find something, I want to let someone know about it before I just zero day it. And
ethically, yes,
right,
yes,
right.
ethical standards, yes.
Um, and I think largely people tend people tend to support that. Um,
Yes. Yeah. You get a certain fame and status out of reporting that, and so there's an incentive that way
well, there's
to say,
incentive for
hey,
0 days too. I mean,
yes, exactly. I mean,
um,
you could go to the dark side and you could sell the 0 day, or you could report it to CERN and say, hey, I found this vulnerability and I'm going through due process to let this company know that they need to fix their crap.
but as you know, it's not always white or black.
It isn't. It is. Yeah. Yeah. There's usually a political bumps and you get stuck in the gray.
yeah. Um, Anyway, cool stuff. And those dev boards you were talking about, those Nordics, those are what they're around 100 maybe. I want to
About a
say,
hundred. I can't remember. It was probably like a buck 23 or something when I got
yeah,
it.
with
But
shipping and whatnot. Yeah.
don't even start there. If you're interested in this, go right for that. That's $10. Okay, the dongle. All right, you'll
Oh,
learn enough
are
about
those
this.
10? Are those 10?
Yeah, they're
Okay.
like $10 now.
Or
So
get a
I mean,
Get a Xiao and run
get a
dongle
Zhao,
firmware on
a
it.
seed.
And
Yep.
I mean, shoot,
So
because with
also,
these
look,
Xiaos,
our rack 4630. It has an NRF. It has a Nordic MCU in it. So
and it's
everything I just
sidewalk
talked about.
certified.
Yes.
Those are sidewalk certified, as are the Xiaos.
So
Now,
there you go. If you just want to, you'll have a radio in there with LoRa, a Semtech radio, and you'll actually have all the functionality that you need for sidewalk.
this is the brand new Vision AI V2 Grove board
Oh,
by Seed,
I
which
saw the
has
V1.
now
Yeah.
this is a V2. This
Oh,
just dropped, man. I think
yeah,
they're sold out or whatnot, but I've got
yeah.
some people that treat me a lot better than they should, honestly.
I like that. I like that header on there for a Zhao.
For a
That's
Xiao,
beautiful.
yeah.
Yeah.
And the V1s had that as well, but you see this guy? I can put a card in this.
Ah, now I
It's
see it. Yep.
USB-C and a Grove breakout there.
Okay. Yep.
I've got two buttons, two interface buttons here, and then
It
you can
looks like
see.
it looks like there's Zhao Sense, the ESP32 cam.
It certainly does, doesn't it?
Yeah.
And exactly. I have one of those that's on their round display. So you can run one of those ESP32 Sense devices on the back of a round touch screen, and there we go. Boom. All right. Yeah, they're fun little devices. They're really cheap too.
Yeah.
Um,
Like $10
Order two.
around there.
You know the rules.
Yeah.
Whenever you're ordering stuff like this, you probably want to get backups, especially if you're as monkey-handed as I can be at times.
Yeah, you can see this is number 6.
Oh, okay, yeah, nice, nice.
Well,
Um,
that's not. It's just I have to number them so I know who they are. Playing around with the mesh just a little bit on those things,
nice.
so
Okay.
it
Yeah,
helps.
yeah.
It
The
helps to
mesh.
know
Yeah.
which one is this one. Is that which one is number? Which one is that IP address? What's that IP address?
Well, you're not really working in IoT until you literally you can't find a device. I mean, it's reporting, it's talking to you, but
Yes, yeah.
you don't know where it's at. I mean, it's
Which is
somewhere.
another great thing about these. There's software on here. People buy Uber tooths, okay, and stuff
Yeah.
like that for Bluetooth, sniffing and following and doing different types of things that way. This device right here is perfect for doing trilateration and Bluetooth. If you have 3 or 4 of these, like very cheap, $10, you can pinpoint RSSIs and find that lost Bluetooth device that you don't know where it is. and for
Yeah.
pretty cheap.
This is a Ubertooth or this is a Wonder Tooth, I guess. It's an open hardware
Yeah,
design up top,
yes,
and then
you know.
this is actually this is pretty cool. This is a Zhao. This is the Nordic Zhao, and this is just 3D printed. But if you look at the inside here, I just have this little
Yeah,
adapter that
exactly.
allows me to use this effectively as a jump drive and as a USB dongle, a Nordic dongle. And then I've got my pin headers that I break out here. This actually has a lipo charging circuit on it as well, so I just have these. It's a flat board on the bottom, but I can hit those pads and tie into a lipo. And these are what, like 10, 12. I don't know, they're cheap,
Yeah.
and I can just drop that Nordic dongle software directly on these things. So
Yeah. Yeah, they work really well with everything. Your rack 4630s, you can actually go to the Nordic dongles. You can go to the Nordic Dev Kit. Um, Even the seed NRFs, the Senses will work with the software. They're sidewalk compatible. So fun stuff to think about.
yeah,
You think of the huge network that you already have with Sidewalk, and you think how Bluetooth devices lack connectivity because they're limited in range. Well, this opens up a whole new ball game when you could bridge those devices just by saying assign this Bluetooth device to the network.
do you have the BLE scanner, the Nordic software loaded up over there? Um,
Yeah, me?
yeah.
No, not on this guy. He's on my Ubuntu right now.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay. Gotcha. I gotcha.
yeah.
Oh, and that reminds me. I did something kind of dirty last night. I loaded up a Windows ThinkPad. Just you know that I've been messing around with the these embedded UIs, quite a bit, and I know you have
Yeah.
as well. It's a love hate relationship, man.
Just flash that ThinkPad with a live USB of some Linux distribution. You'll be happy.
I've got two ThinkPads actually, and I did
Yeah,
that on the other one. Yeah,
yeah. It's the best. Older computers have a new freaking life when you put that live USB on them.
yeah, yeah. Speaking of, you know what? I bet I've got one in my. How do you? I've got one in my pocket. These are one of the coolest little devices that I've been playing with. I know Jason's been playing with them. I know I've talked about them. They're neat, and I don't know exactly how I'm going to be using these things yet. But they're filling me with ideas.
Neither do I. There are a lot of things. I really like the fact that they have an SD card chip on board, and I could see using them as like a bootloader, smart bootloader, remote bootloader. One thing that I'd really love to see out of them is put up an on-the-go extension onto that USB, and then being able to flash like MCUs in the field with no battery power, no nothing.
Mhm.
So if you had like a multiple installs, like you're setting up some ESP32 cameras, you just walk up to them and bam, flash, bam,
And they should
flash.
be able to show you a QR code on them.
Yes, so you could have an onboarding type of. There's a nice LCD on
Yeah,
there.
yeah, 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 yeah. Yeah.
I see them like that, almost like the same way that you would use a crypto wallet. Where a USB would pop up, Bluetooth would connect with authentication. You can remote into those things either by Bluetooth or by Wi-Fi.
Yep.
So, if a lot of the kids I see are using rubber duckies and putting them on that, and then coming in and actually remoting in through Wi-Fi and then executing different code onto some target computer, which is cool. But I think of it more as like, how can I make my life easier and flash like a shitload of devices in the field? And
Yeah.
and and that's the way I see it, as a bootloader or a flash loader or
And
something
we
like
have a
that.
button on them. And so
Yeah,
I can, assign this multi-use, but if I press and hold when I power it on, then, I could throw into exactly.
a different mode. Yeah, DFU mode or whatever. So yeah,
But yeah,
yeah,
fucking careful with what you put in your computer or what you plug it
Yeah.
with cables, with jump drives.
Yeah.
They're it's not
If
safe.
either
You know.
if Travis and I ask you to put a thumb drive in, you gotta think twice.
I
Really,
mean,
anybody. Yeah.
see, I
Don't
don't
ever
think I'd
pick up
ask anyone to. I mean,
don't
I
ever pick up a thumb drive like in the park bench and then walk home and then say, "Let me see what's on this." It's cool if you got an air gap computer
yeah.
ready to trap viruses and you don't care about that computer. You could do it on that, but don't make sure whatever you stick it into that you don't care about and you're ready to lose.
And how many times a week do we talk about shit like that? I mean about yeah, I just bounced this, and when we say bounce the machine, we're not talking rebooting. We're talking,
Yeah.
I completely wiped, back to scratch or back to a save point on if I'm using a container based or Docker based instance, which I'm getting close,
Yeah.
I think, to moving my development like IDE type.
Everything.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, virtual machines, and especially you've been working a lot with ESP,
yeah,
and then you have all the various different versions of ESP. There's something to be said for working off of a Docker or an ESP instance that comes up clean every single time and didn't even remember what workflow you were using it for prior to that. Because um, you find yourself most of the time reinstalling and placing and changing ESP versions and back and forth,
yeah,
that you should just have a platform that starts up agnostic, lets you build it for that particular workflow of the day that you need and do your dev work. And then after you're done, power down the Docker, power down the virtual machine, and then not have to worry about corrupting all the subsequent versions
exactly,
of
exactly.
development that you have. It's bit me so many times, and this is why I usually work on four
Yeah.
or five different hardware PCs because I'm like, that one's vanilla. I haven't put any ESP on it. It's really screwing up on this machine. I don't know why. It might be something I loaded prior with some other development. Okay, let's go over to the new machine, reload everything,
Yeah.
and then boom, all of a sudden my source code works.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's the reason right
That's an
there.
issue I have with Arduino IDE as a whole, and why I kind of prefer platform. I definitely prefer Platformio, the way the libraries are handled. I don't
Well,
have this.
that's the whole thing that you find with development on Arduino. Is there's so many people will develop some code and they have 15,000 libraries that they've been collecting over the past 10 years, and they make a piece of code work, okay? But then they throw it out there and then somebody else tries to do it and they're like, "Wait, this isn't working. I downloaded the new library that you said I should download, and it's still not working." Well, maybe it's because that guy has a whole other different installation of libraries and everything else on his computer that developed it. And yes, it will work on his machine, but it won't work on anybody else's machine because you haven't cloned everything that he's accumulated for the past 10 years.
And with everyone, with so many people working kind of, I'm not cutting edge, but bleeding edge,
Yeah.
I'd say on this, you hit that daily. I mean, you run into that daily. So
Yep. Yeah, so it's good to start out with agnostic, start out with a virtual machine, a clean slate. This is one of the reasons that I really like Windows System Linux WSL and the additions that they've made
yeah.
recently because I can just blow it away in the background, start from a full new Ubuntu instance, and add everything back in. It's almost like a little bit of a virtual machine for me.
What a question
Um,
I ask myself is if my dev machine, which right now is a MacBook Pro, yeah, M1, I love the thing. It's my first like dev machine that's an Apple product, but I wouldn't go back at this point. If that got run over by a truck, how long would it take me to be completely back up?
a
And
day, a day.
I
That's
mean,
it. Yeah,
and
I've
that's
done it.
long. I mean, I'd want to
Yeah.
say hours. I'd want to say,
It's probably hours. I mean, it depends. Like, I mean, you gotta you have some sense of backups, but you don't want to necessarily use those backups. But
right.
just so you know what you need to do a minimum install, you're talking about VS Code, and then you're talking about maybe two or three extensions in VS Code to get you started.
keep that minimal. Keep your extensions as minimal as possible.
Exactly.
That's some
Same
advice.
reason as what we just
Yeah,
discussed right here.
yeah,
Yes. The way I look at it, I kind of treat all my machines as if they're burners.
yeah, yeah,
I don't have any allegiance to a machine being seasoned because I worked on it for a while. Because actually, seasoned means that
yeah.
you're more likely to have some sort of corruption in it.
I like the
So
Apple Silicon. I do like the M chips
yeah,
that they're
and
doing.
that's fine. That's fine. But you clean your work surface every day before you start, right? Before you start a new project, you clean off your workspace, right?
That's what I
That's
hear
the
people
same
do. Yes.
physically. Yeah, I know. But
Yeah, I got you.
physically, you do it. Virtually, you should do it as well.
Yeah.
That's just me.
And I got to throw this in there because a lot of people I know are involved in crypto. You got to keep that shit clean, that stuff cleaned up as well. You gotta
Yeah.
know how all of that is backed up, who has access to that, who. So if you get hit by a bus, not just your computer gets hit by a bus, make sure that that can be accessed by the people you care about or the wherever you a dead man switch. It's something that we've talked about in the past. I think that a digital dead man switch is critical, and not enough people really put enough thought into that nowadays.
Yep.
So
Or just sell it at the last peak and never hold it. You don't get any bonus for hodling. you know, you're only as good as your last peak.
well, there are some people get advantages, have advantages to you, Hodling, but
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
But you know what I mean, really. The
yeah, not
market,
yeah.
the market doesn't reward you for going through the valleys. So really, at the last peak should have been when you sold, and then otherwise you're just looking to buy. So it's not necessarily in a crypto fashion. It's in some other liquid form. It could be in USDC, it could be in dollars, it could be in
And this is not
kroners, it
crypto.
could
This
be
is
in
not financial
frogs.
advice. This
Yeah.
is this is not
Seriously, it's
financial
not.
advice.
Not financial advice, but you get no bonus for hodling.
Just it's just let's consider this personal advice. Just
that's
um,
that's my that's my opinion. It's a
that's some
market.
smart damn advice right there. Air gap your
Yeah,
um,
always air gap. Yeah, air gap. Use an air gap like whatever it is, a ledger card, a cold card, or Arculus is another one that they have. Those are necessities if you're going to play that game.
and a while back I printed out this just a 3D printed. Basically, it's a stamp where you stamp onto washers, where you could put passwords, you know your secret words onto metal washers. So if your house burns down, you have kind of a fireproof solution there. Um,
Yeah.
I mean, obviously, it's not something that we want to think about, but you don't. Yeah, okay, there we go. There we go. What is that? Can you explain?
I can pull it out right now. This wallet's been So then in the case that you lose one of those four people, you don't lose everything. So if I have, that's my only copy of my seeds on my wallet and I lose that, I'm
Yeah.
done. Okay, but you might say, well, grandma gets, a third of the multi-sign. Grandpa, or my aunt gets another third. They can never open up the wallet in their own.
Yeah.
They have to come together and sign off. Your lawyer, or the guy who basically the undertaker, or in your will or whatever, there's some agent that would be acting at that
Yeah.
point. They have the last portion of the seed, or the last key. So you
Legally
could do
on your
like
behalf. I mean,
a
they're,
2 of 4 people need to sign, a 3 of 4. Some people are like 5 of 6 or 9 of 10. That's really kind of hyper, but that's what a Samir's share is, and how it's used with a multi-sign.
yeah. And that's something that you can set up a wallet just using, I guess, CLI tools. I mean, I'm
Well,
sure
you
there's
can set it up
other
with your
ways, but
lawyer. You could set it up
okay,
with a
yeah, yes,
lawyer.
yes, yes. It needs to be a legal, because it is legally binding. It's
Yeah.
something as I, and this is kind of personal, but when my wife and I got married, one of the first things we did was, do end of life clauses, what was important, because that's you don't want other people monkeying around with certain decisions,
Yep.
and financial is something as well, I mean,
It's all stuff you would describe in a will or power
yeah,
of attorney,
yeah,
or what would they call it? Who's executor of a will? Defining an executor of a will. That would be all clauses that you could detail this type of information in. Not to be so morbid, but basically that's it.
right on, right on. Well, it's something that, I mean, you don't want to have to talk about every day. Well, some people do, but it is important to at least think about once in a while.
I just know my wife. My wife wouldn't know how to find all the stuff.
Oh God.
She'd be like calling you, Travis, and saying, "Hey, do you understand what the hell this thing is here?"
I know it's morbid, but think about that, and think about. I mean, I wouldn't wish that on anyone, because it would be, oh my God.
It'd be lost. It'd be just fed back into the blockchain now. You just took liquidity out of the blockchain. It's never going to move because no one's ever going to be able to
I'm just
take that
talking in
money.
general, to have to deal with
Yeah, that too.
my stuff. I mean, it's it kind of gives you a little bit of kind of introspection, thinking about all the stuff that would have to be dealt with, but not just financial, but yeah. I mean, what do you want erased if you die? If you got hit by a bus tomorrow? I mean, what macros do you need run on the word of your death?
What do I do with all this electronic and MCU garbage that Jason has in the basement? Hey, Travis.
I mean, well, and I hate to say it, but that's kind of truth. I
Yeah.
would want some, and I've had to do cleanup for friends, unfortunately, who have passed, and had to go to their parents and just say, look, I don't have this on paper, but I was asked to,
Yeah.
to do some stuff here,
All right. You want to wrap up here and then do a
yeah.
little quick waggle? Do you want to do a quick waggle stuff or
Yes,
no?
yes. No,
Okay.
that sounds perfect, man. If you want to
Okay,
screen
yeah,
share
we're gonna
over,
go to some kind of happy stuff, and like everything
sounds
that we
good.
said about privacy before. Yeah, this is kind of borderline. So basically, I hooked up. Okay, everybody from Canada. This week I took the Wi-Fi dev card right here, this bottom portion, and I added on a GPS. So now I can actually war drive. And what war drive is? Basically driving around and mapping locations of Wi-Fi and Bluetooth SSIDs and BSIDs. It's pretty fun, actually. You know, you just kind of let the thing sync. It's dropping the GPS seeds. It's finding everybody, and it tells you what coverage. It tells you how well you could trilaterate. And there's actually a lot of companies that are willing to pay for this right now. They want that information because there's a lot of devices out there that want to know where Wi-Fi devices are located so they could use that in lieu of a GPS signal to find out where they're at. So one of those companies that I can show you here is called Wigle, Wigle. So basically, I'm going to show you this really quick. This is going to be where I actually publish the data to. It's fairly anonymized, well, you know, basically anonymized, but here you go. You can see I probably loaded up about, close to file lines, close to about 3 or 4,000 lines of captures. So each line would be a different SSID. And then I publish it up to Weigel, and what the hell is Weigel going to do with it? Oh, well, here's the map. Come on, update. Oh my goodness, there's a lot of people doing this. So
And
there
this
you
is a
can see
free
the map.
account that you can get on Weigel.
It's a
This is
free, everything's free here.
yeah.
You just log in. You can see my username up there if you guys want to follow me and see me map. There you go. Upper right-hand corner. All this stuff is basically where people have identified a Wi-Fi location and mapped it and then published the data up to here. Now, like I said, there's a lot of companies that are buying this data off of Weigel. It's a
Yeah.
big thing. They want to know where Wi-Fi locations are at, where coverage is at.
And up to
You
date.
can,
Up
yeah,
to
up
date
to date.
info on that.
So you could basically see all the information there. Like here's New York City right there in the center now. That's very hot.
I hear it's a
It
popular
shows you
place
all the
up there. Yeah.
locations, and it's fun stuff. I can actually sell my data. They have a terms and conditions in here that lets me sell my data. It's a special clause that they have in the T's and C's that you have to accept as a commercial, you know, distributor, but you can do that. You even have some stuff that's out here where somebody was obviously mapping a ship.
Yeah. Well, what's
As they're
interesting,
riding on it.
Jason, is if you package this data with another data source, right? And so you know, if I say, okay, I'm going to associate this mapping data with something else that that someone may
Yeah,
be interested in. I think that's where a lot
GPSs
of the
are
sales go.
expensive. They're $10 or something. You have a cheap MCU that just scans Wi-Fi, it could be like $5. And now you want to add a GPS on it, and then not to mention the power consumption associated with a GPS,
Yeah,
where
yeah,
I could just now go to a lookup table of Wi-Fi data and pull that down from somewhere and then trilaterate my location. That's the power right there. The LR11110 chip that's used in the tag, that STM chip that's used in a few of the tags, that can be placed into a Wi-Fi lookup mode. It doesn't even look at GPS.
right. And so your power consumption on this is the dev board, I guess for those modules, um, is significantly lower.
Yep.
If I need to
Hours.
turn
The
a
battery's
GPS
fast.
on, it should be an as needed radio, in my opinion. You know,
Like GPS should only come on if you're totally. I mean, there's places you saw there that have no Wi-Fi coverage. Maybe you need to know. So ping your GPS, then turn it right back off. Now you know your
yep.
location.
If I lose my backpack, for example, I don't necessarily need to know, you know, to the sub meter where it's at. I just need to know, did I leave it at Jason's house, or is it somewhere around here? And I can get that without firing up a GPS radio.
Yep. SSID is about a 100-foot radius. So do you really need to know more than 100 feet? Do you need that accuracy? You're not going to send a missile down to shoot it, you know.
Yeah.
So you don't need the GPS.
And GPS. I mean, if I have a metal roof, that's not going to help me. If I'm underground, that's not going to help me.
Mhm.
I mean, so there are other methods of geolocation, like indoor geolocation. That
Bluetooth especially, is good. Those higher frequencies are great for penetrating. So, yep,
step cadence, honestly. I mean, just having, I mean, if someone's walking with the device and I can know roughly how many steps they have and what direction, I mean, that can give me a more accurate indoor, picture of location. But this kind of goes back to using different protocols and different technologies together, in order to get a solution, to come to a
yep.
solution. So,
Why do you need LoRa when you have sidewalk, when you have Bluetooth connectivity? Why do you need, it's about kind of tiering the different wireless modalities. Bluetooth is inside the house, outside the house, within the yard is maybe Wi-Fi, then you have sidewalk for a little bit longer, and then if you're out 10 kilometers, sure, use LoRa, but use the right modality,
or
use,
sneaker net. I mean,
yeah,
there's a
just
very
sneaker
famous
net the
quote
batteries too.
about
Yep.
never underestimate the bandwidth of a station wagon speeding down the highway,
Yeah.
full of tapes. So I
Yeah.
kind of screwed that quote up,
It
but
is.
you know
It
what I'm
is
talking
about
about.
your power management really matters.
Yeah,
So when you use some of those extraordinary long distance wireless modalities, you're consuming a lot more power, and it's all about energy conservation and right sizing your modality of your
yeah.
application. Just you have to think about this.
This is a little board. This is based on a Texas Instruments chip, and this is for energy harvesting, right? And so let me flip this so you can kind of see what we're talking about here. But this is a rather popular chip, this TI, that allows me to harvest it. I mean, say I'm doing river like water quality monitoring, and why not power the whole thing from the flow of the river? You know, why not harvest wind energy? When we can. Why not? Just tiny solar panels. 1 inch solar panels. The motion of opening a door. I love this example. I mean, if that's enough to fire up a radio, like a LoRa radio, to say, the door is open.
A hand crank generator.
Yeah,
The little click on the crystals that are inside the lighters that generate a
yeah.
charge. You could click that multiple times and charge this thing up.
I've got a 3D
So, yeah,
printed like Frankenstein, like throw over, like a dagger switch. But yeah, it generates enough just by the motion of throwing the switch to
kinetic energy,
yeah.
couple that now with a
A tennis
supercapacitor.
shoe, a tennis shoe. God,
Yeah,
I want to see that so badly.
anything, and you harvest it in a super cap, not even a
Yeah,
lithium battery, but a
yeah,
super cap, you know?
yeah.
That's the type of things you're going to start seeing. We're not sustainable with using batteries.
No, and it reduces the ugly waste, the e-waste that is
Yep.
just is horrible, horrible. Side of this industry. It's
I mean, if you're going to take the time and do a power profile on your design to make sure that it uses minimal power, and then you're going to say, I don't care about using a long range wireless GPS consuming all the power in the world when I could use a Wi Fi, that just makes no sense.
yeah. And I've got, I don't know. That's one thing. We see all of these LoRaWAN stickers that are, I guess, all the rage right now. And I get it; they're cool. I can slap it on a watermelon and mail it somewhere. But they're not rechargeable.
Yeah.
The battery technology on them. I mean, it's a one use, and given they do last quite a while, but it's disposable, and it just it adds on to everything else in this industry.
And
That's
it's meant for shipping, okay? So what if every time that shipment was bouncing as it's being carried from the courier, it
yeah.
now generates a charge to charge the battery?
Put a damn
No?
e-ink on it. I mean, honestly, and
Yeah,
we're a rewritable address. I don't know. I think there's a lot of capabilities there where
there is. There's a ton. These are the way people are going to have to think if they're not thinking that way already, because
yeah,
it's just not sustainable to think that we're going to be able to have batteries and as big as they can be for the rest of our lives.
or our descendants' lives, because
Yeah,
this
yeah,
this
exactly.
stuff is long lasting. What we're putting out
Oh,
there.
we hate that last generation. They used up all the battery material. Now we don't have batteries.
Well, I mean, and sometimes it's that strife, and sometimes it's that up against a wall, which really leads to innovation. So,
Yep, yep. So
unfortunately,
just
that's what we're looking at, I think. So,
well, that's all I had on war driving there and that fun stuff.
well, that was cool. And the link, if someone wants to get an account over there, basically you just go sign up and
Weigel, Wigle. I
cool.
think it's .net. Let me check. Yes, it is
Google. Okay,
.net.
cool,
Yeah,
cool,
Weigel, Wigle.
cool.
And they take CSV uploads. Actually, there's a lot of companies that are trying to harvest this information,
Yeah.
So I've heard of a couple. I'm not sure I could mention their name, but they do have their own LNS.
I got something to show it before we close this down. I got these in this week. I think this week. What this is, it's a little clip, and if you look at it, it's crooked for a reason. What this is a little Tag Connect retention clip, right? And what I use this for is for JTAG, right? So I've got this JTAG thing, and it
Yep.
has pogos and basically like spring-loaded pins inside of it, and so I can put this onto a board, and then I have these alignment pins. Those are the outside silver ones. They go through the board onto this the JTAG connector, and then on the other side, it grabs onto that clip and holds it in place, right? I don't know. I've been dealing with JTAG and that
Yeah.
stuff lately. Kind of wanted to show that, but
Well, in big production environments, they'll have something like that, and they might actually have a robotic arm that does that. And program
yeah,
flash.
yeah, and
Burn-in boards. You'll see a lot of burn-in systems designed that way.
yeah.
Yeah, flash, and then burn in.
Oh yeah, just where you have a jig, I guess that just sets down. Bed of nails, I think is a term
Yep.
that is used a lot, where that just sits down onto your test points, runs all of your test arrays, against the hardware. Make sure that your pick and place didn't get screwy somewhere, and you have a
Previous
capacitor that
life,
didn't.
I worked in thick film substrates and PCB substrates, and you'd load up the whole array of substrates. And you'd have a probe, two probes, two probes down below, and it was basically on a gantry that went
Yeah,
boom, 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 boom. Pull out the test report, say, oh, this and that is bad. Something happened here. There's a short. There's an open. There's whatever.
yeah,
It's basically a requirement of qualification for most PCBs before you go into mass production. If not, something that, for whatever quality reasons, they might have done 100% per shipment.
and I mean, and shoot, okay, these are the seed dev boards, right? And I just happen to look at this. Okay, so there's test points right there, right?
Yep, yep, they're all ready to go. And you
Yeah.
see that the outside pegs are actually sunk through the ground. It's tying into the ground artwork, so I don't know if that's necessary, but yeah.
One thing, and when I say JTAG is something like these these pins right here. I think this cable, and this does not have the actual JTAG device. This is just a cable, and I think that was, I don't know, $150.
Yeah, they rip you off on that stuff, but
There's a
if you're
company, Tag
crafty,
Connect, which is
yeah,
those clips that I have connected to this that sells JTAG cables
yeah, that's a
for
racket.
significantly cheaper. And so if you're looking
Okay,
for JTAG stuff, go to Tag. I mean,
Tag
hey,
Connect.
this isn't an ad. They're not sponsored. If you'd like to sponsor this show, no, but they're significantly cheaper, I
That's
believe.
not Tag. That's not Tag Connect. That's Tag Connect, right?
Tag Connect, I believe, is the I believe is the name there. But otherwise, JTAG is, I believe, probably just a mark of Seger. Um,
Yeah. Anytime you put that name JTAG on it, it's gonna come. People are gonna
expensive.
drive up the price. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's kind of silly because you're like, oh, a ribbon cable with a bunch of pogo pins, huh? Thank you.
But at that dot pitch, it's hard to make them. It's hard. I mean, it's hard to make those little cables, or those
Yeah.
little connectors. There is, if you need JTAG, and JTAG is extremely useful. JTAG is something that, if you're doing that type of thing, operating in that part of the industry, it's a daily thing. But they have an EDU device that jumped in price for some reason. It's like 119 US dollars now. I don't know when that changed, but you cannot use it commercially legally. But it pretty much has full JTAG on it in a small, like I don't know, micro USB um, factor. So I don't know, they're around here somewhere, but I think they used to be like $30. But if you need JTAG, that's the way you can go about getting a real JTAG, a real Seger JTAG, without going to clones. And there are a lot of clones out there. There are a lot of JTAG clones that you can get, on the normal sites for, I don't know, $30 to $50. But we need to talk about that some. I want to have a good like logic analyzer kind of debug type hardware talk at some point, Jason.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, you could go over all those tools. Yep.
Yeah, I think that'd be fun. But yeah, I guess we've gone over an hour here, and hopefully our audio held out. Leo, I guess, said we had. I think it was when I was going over to. We were muted out, but I think we're back, or we're working here. Hopefully,
Yep. You
uh,
mentioned something early on before we even went into the ETF stuff. So, yep.
but yeah, this is I guess this is the internet of this show, and this is something that we've been doing on Sundays, and I'd like to continue. I'm having a good time with it, Jason.
Yep, it's fine. It's working pretty good. I just today I was like, I don't know if I have any material, but then we got into it. I'm like, oh, yeah, okay.
Yeah, right. And Voro will be back with us next week. So he has not abandoned us because of our horrible audio issues.
I feel really abandoned by him. So I just want to say that.
We should let him know. Everyone should let
He's a
him
good
know.
guy. I'm
But,
gonna have to tell him how abandoned I felt.
all right. But yeah, it's been fun. Thank you, everyone who watches this or joins us on the show. Jason, as always good chatting with you. And until next week, bud. See you, folks.
Have fun,
Adios.
everybody. Yep.
Packets on packets on packets on packets on packets. Got packets on 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 packets. Got packets on 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 packets. Got packets on packets on packets on packets on packets on packets on.
Put in the F around and you find out.